You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. Marriage counselor Cappy here. Don't get married. And good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. My job is done here. 8 years, doctoral thesis studying, PhD in marriage counseling. Don't get married. And good night, everyone. There you go. 8 years research, decades, thousands of people just don't get married and have sex and be having fun instead. All right. Thank you. And good night. We have a real world marriage case. I'm glad these are coming back. Where you could submit you don't even have to be yours. It could just be an example of real world marriage and how it ended up. We're still waiting for ones that are happily ever after. We are 14 in now. And the main reason we put this together was at a request of Uncle Hector, who wanted to share his marriage with everyone, is saying, don't get married. And we're not being funny. This isn't the funny, ha, edgy. It is. I don't know if there's ever been anything so stupid and so dangerous and such a logical, no. See, heroin, you at least get a high, I'm trying to think of something else that's got a 50-50 shot of almost killing you. You're not dead. Might drive you to it, but you're not dead, but you're pretty much wiped out, and then people are like, oh, gee, should we participate in this roulette wheel? Should we, huh? And then because we have a non-thinking population where, but tradition and genetics, and I feel like you guys all got to get rid of that quick now. Thank you, Dennis Prager. Thank you, Matt Walsh. And thank you, Dave Ramsey. I'm very happy you all got great women in your lives. They do. I mean, they wouldn't defend so much. Well, Dennis is on his third marriage. Thank you for the advice that worked in 1961, just like the F-4 Phantom. We are fighting stealth technology now. We need to upgrade our weapons platforms a little bit. And so we're not the marriages that don't do. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, no. But my traditions. But divorce law. So I will be doing my part for a fee, of course, to share these things. Hey, Cap, real world marriage. Military veteran here. Please keep me anonymous. I like a video. I've been watching your videos about marriage disasters and would like to participate. Again, we'll take you let us know till death did them part. You let us know the eternal marital bliss stories. In the meantime, would like to participate by giving my perspective on a disastrous marriage that I witnessed and solidified my opinion on the institution forever. I've never been married, but my best friend was, and the reason it failed was that he destroyed it. He bought into the fairy tale bullshit that marriage would fix all of his problems and make people take him more seriously. And in the process, he ruined his ex-wife's life. Yeah, well, you can't. I remember one couple adopting a mentally impaired child because they thought that would fix their marriage. It's like, no, you two aren't compatible for some reason. Fix that first before you bring in a mentally impaired child and ruin that poor kid's life as well. This in no way was her fault other than agreeing to marry him. Since he has passed away, I have been able to see how big of a shit show his life was, from his terrible finances all the way to his infidelity. Okay, so this is on the guy, which happens. Yeah, it's not always the gal. Of course not. My friend and I met partying back in our early 20s and through similar interests. Hang on. There we go. We spent many years together having awesome experiences through camping, motorcycles, and dating crazy women. I learned my lessons through these experiences and grew out of dating nut jobs, but my friend did not. He would constantly date traumatized and broken women. I told him what a dumbass he was to constantly do this, but he never listened. Even when these relationships would end, he would keep these women in his life, and boy, was it a disaster. He also had a substance abuse problem that stemmed from a back injury when he was prescribed opiates that turned into a heroin addiction. Because of this, he was in recovery and dated women who had drug and alcohol problems, which led to volatile relationships. He even fell in love with a woman from your favorite sister fucking state, Wyoming. Don't do that. Don't. How did he fall in love from a woman from Wyoming? How? I mean, I guess there's a special someone for everybody, but I like my women to have most of their teeth. That's just me. And you're right, that place does produce some special people. Yes, it does. Even though he was a good-looking guy, he was very insecure. He thought because all of his cousins were married that he needed to be married as well. I told him that the grass was not always greener and you shouldn't compare yourself to others. His finances were a complete disaster and suffered from the need to impress people. He never understood how he could be so happy living in a small dwelling. I told him that it's easy to not care when you have no debt. You got it. Because of his massive insecurities, he was always afraid he would be alone and therefore, after a few months, would propose to women he was dating. Wow. He proposed 3 times, and all 3 times the engagements fell through. So they said yes. That is Wyoming. They don't have starter marriages. They have starter engagements because they've already had the kids. See, that's how it's. I told him I would not go to his wedding because of how stupid he was for acting this way. Eventually, he would meet his wife, who was a great person, but I knew it wouldn't last. He overcorrected and married a woman he was not attracted to, thinking that being married to a normal person would fix him, and it did not. The marriage. The first mistake my buddy made, other than getting married in the first place, was not vetting his wife's family. He also got married on a cruise ship with no family or friends, so no one could object. He was very close to her family, and all were recovering drug addicts who had spent time in prison in one way or another. They would constantly fight about going to family outings while constantly bailing out her younger sibling who totaled my friend's car. This does sound like Wyoming. A little bit of Wisconsin, too. A warrant was issued for my friend's arrest because all they got was the license plate numbers after the idiot brother left the scene by the accident. My buddy was a pussy and wouldn't have him arrested and even asked the detective not to press charges. I told him he was pathetic, not holding his brother-in-law accountable, and responded with, "You wouldn't understand. You're not married." Okay, so your friend is an idiot. I have a question for you. At what point did you not realize that this was a lost cause? And I'm not criticizing you condescendingly. It's just a curious question I have, but a constructive one nonetheless, because I too was guilty of this. I didn't tolerate crime in anyone in my life, but right now I don't care to help people at all. One of the main reasons I charge for asshole consulting, because I don't care if people pay me. I don't care if people follow my advice. I do care that my time is compensated. So I guess what is it? Asshole consultant's coming up on 10 years now. At least a decade I've stopped caring. Like, oh, is that how? Well, that's too bad. I don't even tolerate conversations now. Oh my, like sob stories. Oh my God. Da-da. And once I find out, well, did the person who's ultimately responsible, even if they are the victim, is the person who's ultimately responsible taking action? No, I don't care about the story. My life is too short to hear the story right now. So same thing with people. I've watched it, man. I've watched seeing family and friends and they're starting to raise kids. I'm like, oh, you're going to let that slide, huh? You're going to let you're going to let that kid get away with that, huh? I don't, fine. I'm sure your kid will grow up to be perfect. I'm sure there won't be any troubles from that later on. I don't have the energy to care anymore. And it's sad. It's you cared about your buddy, but man, he was pretty stupid. I'm kind of wondering, like, hey, when did you realize this guy had no hope whatsoever, and you should not care for him, but not care for him. I would respond by saying, "You signed up for this shit, and this is what you get for not vetting her family." Also, just to give you some insight, he begged her to marry him. The second mistake he made was his ineptitude with his finances. When he got married, he married into his wife's fully paid off home with no financial issues whatsoever. After a few months, he started to feel insecure that he didn't own the home and pressured his wife into selling it to buy a condo, become an Airbnb business too. This poor girl. The dumbass bought the property without reading the HOA bylaws, stating that short-term rentals were not allowed. Really? Really? And she also pointed that out? She bought it too? and kept getting fines from the board. So instead of moving into the condo, he sold it without spending the mandated year of them living in it and had to cash out his 401k with major tax implications to pay the capital gains penalties. This is more of a story of a stupid man. I know we need T Rash to make a special guest celebrity appearance. I have never been able to master the ability, let alone, I guess his 6-pack abs and his dick is just so amazing that women will house him. I want to know that. How do I get a sugar baby? How can I get a sugar baby? Where do I sign up to find the women that just give me a free house and change their financial decisions to benefit me? What's the program for that? Where do I sign up for that program? The third mistake he made was buying an overpriced, larger house in the suburbs while purchasing a new pickup truck. This is Wyoming. I don't know if it is Wyoming or if they have moved out. That had $1,100 a month payment with an inconsistent contractor job that would lay him off as soon as the contract ended. My buddy would chase high short-timer salaries and blow all the money. The finances for both of them were absolute garbage, and at this time, he started to tell me that he was not attracted to a wife and hadn't had sex in a long time. It was around this time he started to tell me that I was right and that he... Let me ask you another question, and you don't have to email it, waste your time, but I have... When people, years, decades of time tell you, yeah, you were right. This prodigal son choice that the father had to make, welcome back to the tent, son. I want to punch him in their fucking face. Yeah, fuck you. No, fuck you and fuck you some more. And they could even be friends. Fuck you some more. And go over there and fuck off some more. This, yeah, you were right. No, that doesn't cut it. Yeah, the Calvin and Hobbes sing the I'm very sorry song. Like, that would be a start. And then I want to be able to kick you in the fucking nuts. Head or gut, Mike. Head or gut. If you had a hot wife, I want to be able to fuck her. And then I think we'd be like, okay, now we're okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Now I feel better. Okay, now we can be friends again. And he should have listened to me regarding the marriage. The fight started getting worse and worse between the two of them, and he fell off the wagon and started using drugs again. He was in and out of rehab, and at some point his wife had enough, and they agreed to divorce amicably. She didn't want to take half of his stuff. Well, it sounds like it was all her stuff anyway. See, I don't get that. There's a case where the woman should have gone after the guy for everything. She just wanted her life back to normal, but now had to move into a super expensive apartment because the cost of the living in the area had skyrocketed. The aftermath. My buddy ended up moving into an overpriced luxury apartment and started where he left off. He started dating women who were in recovery and were living in sober living facilities and other places. I would think that would be stupid to pick up women. He eventually fell back into using, and it was noticeable every time I saw him. Unfortunately, I knew it was a matter of time before I would get the call that he had overdosed, and surely enough, I got that call one night from his sponsor telling me of his passing. At his funeral, one of the nut job women from the sober living. So at anger management, you see some people that mandated treat, and so I wondered, there's some gals that come in, and they all, it was a cackle or a gaggle. They come in. And then they all leave. And usually there's like a hanging out a little bit afterwards or something, or just chit-chatting in the parking lot. But and then I saw they all got into a van. I'm like, what the hell? And that's from the halfway house. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose. So one of them showed up at the funeral, huh? Oh, that's good. At his funeral, one of the nut job women from the sober living facility showed up and broke in front of everyone to throw Rose into his coffin. She then proceeded to tell everyone that they were in love and planning on having a life together. I then walked over to her and kindly but firmly asked her to leave. It was a shit show, and I had to help his family through the process, and it's something I never want to go through again. Conclusion. My buddy did a lot of damage by getting married. And we want to get rid of the idea of a marriage license, like the government shouldn't be in it. But then you look at how destructive it can be if it's done wrong. You say, maybe you ought to get a license for that. I think what should happen is you need to have a license to have kids. I really do. Like, no. But what government's going to give it? The Democrats, who are in charge of all government facilities, like, oh my God, anyone can have a kid. Yeah, you qualify. If anything, the irony would be the Democrat people who would sit on the committee be like, well, wait, those are upper middle income white people. Absolutely not. They can't have. Oh, what? You're on welfare committing a ton of crime, but you're not white. All right, that's fine. You have as plenty of children as you want. Father, you don't need a father. Here's a jar of jizz. Put that inside you. There you go. Nope. Taxpayer finance. Bye. We know what we're doing. We're community leaders. Yeah, it's especially when there's kids involved. It's like it's not playing with fire, it's playing with a nuclear bomb. My buddy did a lot of damage by getting married. I'd found out that during the marriage, he was also cheating on her with members of his sobriety group. His wife had her issues, but she is also a great person, and she should have never agreed to marry him. She told me she was living a great life without him, but thought she could make it work with him, even though he had major red flags. Well, she was going to change him, don't you know? Having a front row seat to this shit show gave me a great insight as to how marriage can ruin people's lives, especially if you marry the wrong person. I think, I'm not joking, I'm not trying to be edgy. I really do believe separate housing, separate residences is the future. I think that's the future going forward. It's the roommate situation. Now, he was on drugs, and everyone has to. I don't think two people can stay together nowadays in the same household. I don't think it's possible. I think if somebody you have your own place, you go back to your own respective place, or at least have your own room. Yeah, I think that will be the thing going forward. And then, and I like the sovereignty of it. Like, no, you don't bring that into your house. This is my house. You bring it, you take it to your storage facility. You take it somewhere else. No, we're not going to do that. This is my house. And then when you're in their house, you're like, no, you can't do that. This is my house. Oh, you're right. This is your house. I'm sorry. Although men never have that. We don't walk into some woman's, I think I'll change some things around here because I'm a dictatorial Nazi fuck deep down inside. I just think I'll own this place. Are you girls, is there a little bit of Zig Heil in all of you? Like, oh, I like this place. This is mine. Das ist mine, yeah. I do not like your dishes. You will get rid of the Goodwill dishes you got for near free. And so we'll buy the $18,000 China. I do not like your car. Your car is not fancy enough for my taste. We will go down to the BMW dealership. We will get ourselves $18,000 of an engineered piece of shit. And if you do not do that, you do not love me, and I will go and suck another man's dick. Right, girls? A little bit of Hitler in all of you? Like, you just, well, this is my place now. Oh, my goodness. The Sudetenland. Oh, my. Russia? Look at all the land they got over there. Mine, 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 mine. No, you fuck off to that shitty apartment you got with all the cat piss in it. Over there. There you go. That's you can put as much cat piss in your apartment as you want. That's fine. No, the cat is not allowed here. Wife had issues in front row. Having a front row seat to this shit show gave me a great insight as to how marriage can ruin people's lives, especially if you marry the wrong person. My buddy would always gaslight me and give. See, will you gaslight? What? I think I figured out what that is. Gaslight me and give me shit for not wanting to get married. I think this was because misery loved company. Heed my warning. Marriage will not solve your problems, especially if you marry someone you're not compatible with. Anyways, Cap, let me know how much for a video, and I think everyone should hear this story. Yep, there you go. Here's another thing to think about. I'll be doing a video about how I think therapy is being overused or overdiagnosed or misused, I guess is the way to put it. Pretty much all of you under 40 are not mature enough to get married. Now, okay, I take that back. Every American alive today, boomer and younger, I forgot to throw the boomers in. It is painfully obvious. Americans, all of you are not mature enough to get married. You're not. This is it's like guns, kind of. Like at one time, Americans were mature enough that children, well, young or old children, young adults, high schoolers, they would bring their rifles to school and they would have marksman course. You could bring your guns to school as 17-year-olds. And now, because we have raised a bunch of feral, fatherless children who cannot control their emotions or are not raised correctly, yeah, you can't. I am for the Second Amendment all the way, but it's like, yeah, I'm kind of for the background checks now, kind of for those background checks, because the American people are too immature, they're too feral, you're too stupid, you're too emotional. Marriage is the same thing. It's a tool for good, and it can be a tool of destruction, just like a gun. And I was like, ooh, no, not in your hands, Tanner. Not in your hands, Madison. You're just a bunch of little malformed children. It's like, what was it? Demolition Man? No, it wasn't Demolition Man. What was the one? It was a Sly Stallone movie where they were making clones, and the clones weren't fully developed or evolved, but they released them anyway because the guy needed reinforcements. So they're kind of like partial humans. Maybe that was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't remember. But look, for all of you under 40, you're not responsible or mature enough to get married. You're not, and you shouldn't. And I think a lot of you aren't, intelligently so. I also think most women don't want to get married unless it's to a very specific guy. And the guys, I think it's never been in our nature to really get married, but if you wanted to have kids, but that's for other reasons we're going away. But also, let us not be forgetting that you guys couldn't keep it together if you wanted to, which is why the divorce rate is going down. No, that's because the marriage rate is going down. The divorce percentage is still the same. And I think everyone's even more miserable than they are now who do remain married than those that were before. Anyway, so thank you very much. A link below is what the hell is the link below? A World Without Men. Link to my latest book where I answer the question. Well, not the question. I answer, what would it be called? The statement, the declaration that women don't need men. And we're like, yeah, you're right. So what world would that look like? Because I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of, yeah, you got the freedom of speech, but I got the freedom of speech to tell you to shut the fuck up and fuck right off with that man-hating bullshit. And you're wrong. Oh, and incidentally, you're wrong. You girls are so fucking sadly dependent upon men. It isn't even funny. And so if you want to see what giving a finger would look like in book form, that's the book. I got right here. A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. It's a short piece, about 1.5 feet. No one's going to get that one either. And yeah, it tells you what a world without men would look like. That's available. And then for those of you who, let's say you're trying to get the dating thing and you'd like to get married, but you're not having a lot of success, or you're like, golly, this is pulling teeth. I recommend you get your financial act together. If you got some spare time, like if it's a Friday night, tomorrow's Friday night, right? We all got a choice tomorrow, right? Do you go out and chase tail? What do you girls call it? Chasing dick? I don't know. You exist and let the dick come to you. You could go and chase tail. Or why don't you get your financial act together? Why don't you do a little bit of financial planning now to save yourselves what would quite literally be decades of time in the future? Do it now. I can guarantee you with 99.9% certainty you will waste your time at the nightclub or the bar or whatever. Why don't you spend a night getting your financial act together? And you can start by getting my book, Bachelor Pad Economics, which is linked below, which means you probably wouldn't be able to start tomorrow because it'd take at least 3 or 4 days for the book to be delivered to you, unless you got it on audio and Kindle. But I would recommend getting it on Kindle or paperback because it's a reference book. You can listen to it. It's not going to hurt you in any way, but I think it'd be easier to you. But get that, starting your financial planning. tomorrow. And then Monday would roll around and everybody would be hungover. What'd you do? I got shot down. What did you do? I set up an IRA. Shucks, howdy, look at me go. Oh, Doc's in the house. The Blue Wrench. Motto: we the unwilling, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. That's nice. I like that. I like that. Is that it? That's it. All right. See you guys later. Toodles.